About 500 BC, so over about 2,500 years ago, there's a Chinese military general who wrote, and also a philosopher who wrote a famous book that a lot of even businesses still use today, and you probably actually know some quotes from it without actually knowing it was from Sun Tzu. But what he writes about in this book is not only just different aspects of how to win a war, but he also writes about these five constants of war. The five constants are essentially five things that if you want to win a war, a commander or the person leading your army must consider if they want to win. So the first one is what Sun Tzu would call moral law, and this is the extent to which an army is willing to follow its commander. It's loyalty and the willing to fight to the death. So if you think about some of the leaders that we've talked about, which ones have commanded armies that would be willing to fight and die for the person commanding the army? If we look at Julius Caesar, had a good command of moral law. Alexander did early on, but by the end of his campaign, he didn't have moral law because his army didn't want to follow him. They didn't want to fight to the death. They wanted to go home. The second thing that all commanders need to take into consideration is what Sun Tzu would call heaven. This doesn't mean heaven the way we think of heaven. He refers to the heaven as the importance of the timing of when a battle is fought. So fighting in a specific time of day, so fighting in a specific season or a specific type of weather. So just the time of when it's fought. So if we think of Hannibal at the Battle of Trasimene, or no, the Battle of Trasimene is the battle when he realizes that if he fights in the morning, there's a fog that comes off the lake. And when that fog comes off the lake, it creates natural camouflage for his army. So that's an example of a commander who understood the importance of when a battle is fought. He understood the importance of heaven. Earth is the importance of where a battle is fought. The terrain, mountains, narrow passages. So a good example of this is if we think about the Persian Wars. The Greeks, so Miltiades in the Battle of Marathon, Themistocles in the Battle of Salamis Bay, or Leonidas in the Battle of Thermopylae, they all understood Earth. They understood the importance of where the battle is fought, where Xerxes and the Persian military commanders didn't. They thought that they had a bigger army with better or more soldiers, and that they would simply win because of the size of their army. But because they had no knowledge or consideration for Earth or where the battle was fought, ultimately the Persians were defeated. Method and discipline. So this is the organization and discipline of the army. This one's kind of difficult, but the best example is, again, the Roman army. The Roman army is very specifically organized. You have your legionnaires in an exact number forming a cohort. And each cohort and each legion is led by a centurion. And the best legionnaires would become centurions. So the Roman army is highly, highly organized. And that's why the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, were so successful for so many years. And the fifth thing, or the fifth constant of war, is the commander himself and his personal qualities. So what makes a good commander? Well, Sun Tzu says that what makes a good commander are these things. Wisdom, which is, I guess, how smart you are, which makes sense. Do you know how to use the landscape? Do you know how to deploy battle formations? The ability to adapt and change. So if we think again about Hannibal, he knew that the Roman legions could only move forward and back. So he created that bending line where when the Roman pushed forward, it actually enveloped them on the sides. If you think back to the Punic Wars. Trustworthy. To what extent can you trust a general to act in good faith and not to act irrationally for personal gain or reward? Obviously, Alexander the Great, not very sincere. Everything he did was for personal gain, to prove he was the greatest. He thought he was a god. They made him march all the way to some oracle just to hear that maybe he was the son of Zeus. He made them march to go get the shield of Achilles. Benevolence. To what extent does the commander care for his men, reward them, treat them well? Again, Caesar or Hannibal are both renowned for doing this. Caesar would let his men kind of get drunk and party and do whatever they wanted after a successful battle. And again, Hannibal always ate and slept where his men slept. He didn't put himself on a pedestal above his men. Courage. To what extent is the commander able to face difficult situations without fear, danger, or pain? Does your commander fight at the front, or is he afraid in the back? Again, you think of possibly Julius Caesar at the siege of Alesia, having to face two groups of Gaelic tribes on both sides and facing it without fear. Strictness: to what extent are standards upheld or rules maintained? Do rewards equal punishment? So how strict are you? So if we think of a general like Attila the Hun, he's very strict. He, to the point that if you leave his army, he crucifies you. And again, it's just a rule that can make sure that his army always stays in line. So what you have to do for the Dream Civilization Part 4 is you have to weigh all of these things. I don't care about winning and losing. What we're trying to do is say, based on this, which commander from the options provided have the best command of moral law, which have the best understanding of heaven and earth, method and discipline, and which commander has these 5 qualities that make him a good commander. And you need to support this with evidence from the records of which battle did these generals fight that proves they have these things. Okay, it's difficult and might not necessarily be able to find tons of information on every one, but I've posted also a level 4 exemplar under the assignment outline. Good luck.